Invest 91L is currently located in the central portion of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's now bringing a heavy amount of rain showers and thunder showers throughout the state of Florida, and it could bring gusty winds as well associated with this low pressure system. We do see that based on the water vapor imagery, it looks fairly disorganized. We do see that there's a strong amount of wind shear right over this storm system, as we do see the clouds are drifting towards the northeast, and we see most of the convection to the northeast of the center of circulation thanks to the strong southwesterly upper level winds that this storm is encountering. Now, there is still that possibility this could develop into Tropical Storm Arlene, because it might be in a small area where the wind shear won't be as significant, to where maybe it could create just enough convection around center of circulation for this to potentially develop into tropical storm. The chance of this developing into a tropical storm is still rather low, but there's still that possibility because there is that small patch of wind shear where the wind shear is relatively light. So we're definitely gonna need to pay close attention to the position of the center of circulation to really determine if this will develop. And outside of the wind shear, we do see plenty of dry air just to the west of this storm system, and the dry air is being pushed by the strong, like I said, southwesterly upper level winds that the Gulf of Mexico is encountering at this point, and that's definitely going to limit its possibility that this will develop into a tropical cyclone. However, like I said in my previous video, whether this develops into a tropical cyclone or not, Florida should still expect heavy rainfall, potentially rough surf, as well as gusty winds along the coast. So you definitely want to pay close attention to those possibilities especially right up along the western coast of Florida, because this could definitely bring some flooding in certain areas. Here's a look at the current radar for Florida, and as you can see, we do have some thunder showers just to the east of Tampa, Cape Coral, as these thunder showers should mainly be scattered for the most part, at least for today, but entering tomorrow, we should begin to see those rain showers a little bit more consolidated and in a larger area. So that certainly will raise the possibility of flooding in certain areas right over central and southern Florida. In terms of the probability, the National Hurricane Center is giving this storm system of developing. The chance is very low. We do see that over the next 48 hours, it's a low 20% chance. And even through the next 7 days, it's a very low 20% chance. And really, the window that this has to develop will be, I'll say, probably within the next 3 days. Beyond that point, it won't have any chance of developing because of wind shear by the time we reach maybe late this weekend or into early next week, will be way too strong for any sort of storm system to be able to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. So that certainly will reduce the chance beyond the 3-day mark. So really, if this were to develop into a tropical cyclone, it would develop into a tropical cyclone within the next 48 to 72 hours. So you definitely need to pay very close attention to that. Here's what the European model is forecasting over the next several days regarding this storm system in the Gulf of Mexico, or Invest 91L. So we do see that for today, there should be rain showers throughout the state of Florida for the most part, and however, we could see a well-defined center of circulation develop within the next few days. Now, it's like I said, it's unlikely that this will develop into a tropical storm, but we could see this low pressure system strengthen, and now there has been a pretty significant shift regarding the trajectory of this storm system, because yesterday the storm's trajectory was leaning more towards bringing this storm towards the northeast. However, it seems like the computer models have detected that this ridge that's going to be located right up along the west coast of Mexico will be a little bit stronger to be able to steer this storm further southward and to really not be able to move northeastward. So we're going to see the center of circulation move just to the south and most likely not make landfall along the coast of Florida, as the steering current that wants to bring this storm further southward will be just strong enough for this to avoid the United States. However, the rain showers will still be there, and likely the gusty winds will still be along the West Florida coast, so you still need to be aware of that possibility. Here's what the European model is forecasting when it comes to wind shear. We do see that there will be a small area where the wind shear will be relatively light, which is the reason why the computer models are giving this at least a slight chance of developing as it moves further southward. But like I said, this will be compounded by the fact that there's going to be plenty of dry air on the western side of this storm. So that's definitely going to hinder this storm from being able to have a very high chance of developing, mainly due to the amount of dry air on the western side. And even though there may be a small patch where the wind shear will be very relatively light, it might not necessarily have enough time to really develop a strong or well-defined center of circulation, because it's not only good conditions, or at least a lightly sheared environment, or a moist environment that's required for a storm system to develop into a tropical cyclone. It needs to be under those conditions for just enough time for it to organize itself and really gain enough convection and wind speed around center circulation to develop a well-defined eye wall. And it seems like while the wind shear will be relatively light for a small window of time in the western or the eastern Gulf of Mexico, it might not be enough time for this to develop a well-defined center of circulation. So as a result, we're most likely not going to see a tropical cyclone out of this. But again, still pay close attention to the heavy rain and gusty winds along the Florida coast. Like I said in my previous video, a big hindering factor that this storm is going to need to deal with is the amount of dry air just to the west of this storm system. And even at its peak intensity, which would be right around the Saturday time frame, at least based on what the European model is expecting, we still have a high level of dry air just swallowing most of this storm, and even the center of circulation is completely dry, and that will certainly make the storm not really have a well-defined center of circulation or a very organized center of circulation for this to be considered a tropical storm, or at least, and the stable air will increase the pressure along the surface for this storm to not be able to have a strong amount of wind along the surface, because of course the pressure needs to be low enough for the air molecules to filter into this area of low pressure. And if there's a high level of stability and a strong downward motion in the atmosphere over the center of circulation, then that will definitely reduce the wind speed around center of circulation, and as a result that will make the storm overall less organized. And that's gonna definitely be probably the main factor that's gonna limit this storm from being able to intensify into a tropical cyclone. However, there's still that slight possibility we're really gonna need to see a high amount of convection on the northeastern quadrant of this storm system to potentially maybe lower the pressure just enough for there to be just enough wind around the center of circulation or the eye walls for this to potentially develop into a tropical cyclone. However, like I've been saying, it's less likely at this point with this amount of dry air that's forecasted, and the GFS model is forecasting a very similar amount of dry air just to the west of this storm system as well. However, the range should still be throughout Florida associated with this storm system, where Florida over the next 5 days should experience anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility of flash flooding all throughout central and southern Florida. So definitely keep that in mind, and if you see a body of water, make sure to turn around and don't drown, because typically that body of water is a lot deeper than what you anticipate. So make sure to at least be aware of that possibility of heavy rainfall over the next several days throughout Florida, and the possibility of flooding, especially if you're in a more vulnerable area when it comes to flooding throughout the state of Florida. So here's my forecast regarding Invest 91L that's currently centered over the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So this is unlikely to develop into a tropical storm, but even if it does, the impacts will be very similar to compared to if this was just a regular coastal low, which is the most likely scenario. So Florida, expect heavy rain and gusty winds with this storm system. But that's it for now, guys, and I thank you guys for watching.